Counter against the Rays. They've lost the two first games of that series. They've been an awful team. They were 24-13. They've collapsed, fired a manager, the whole 9 yards. And now maybe for sale. Bill Shakin covers them LA Times. We get a chance to say hello. Bill, welcome. And listen, I'd sell it too. I mean, they're never getting a ballpark built. They need a new one. They got Ohtani's contract. Who knows what they're going to do with him after next year? Trout's making too much money. I mean, he hasn't played too much in the last 2 years. Rendon's a disaster. They got a cumbersome scenario with their finances. This team is a complete mess right now. I'm sure that drove Artie over the brink. Thoughts with that first? Go ahead.
Well, that's a lot that you laid on the Angels' plate, but certainly it's not a great situation. Most of all, you want to see a winning team, and it's kind of crazy, really, that a team with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani on it can't even get a sniff of the playoffs. Shohei Ohtani has never played on an Angels team with even a winning record, let alone a postseason appearance. Mike Trout played in the postseason once. The Angels got swept by the Kansas City Royals. And if the Mariners get into the playoffs this year, no team in the American League will have gone longer without a postseason appearance than the Angels.
All right, now, is anybody, you can't be too shocked. Is Artie just sick and tired of losing? Frustrated he can't get the ballpark? What precipitated this announcement from the Angels yesterday with ownership?
He's been thinking about it for a while, and I was told that although the ballpark deal collapsing, that would have been a deal in which the stadium would have been renovated or maybe a new one built, and then all sorts of real estate development done around it in the same way the Cardinals have a ballpark village, the Padres, the Rockies. So many cities have all these great things to do right around the ballpark. That collapsed, and that was one straw, but it wasn't the only straw. Frankly, there's been a lot of criticism lately of how the Angels have been run, and not unjustifiably, because results are results. But beyond the win-loss record, it's thin in the minor leagues, it's thin in player development, it's thin in scouting, it's thin in marketing. It just needs a refresh, and I think Artie got to the point where he didn't really want to deal with it anymore. And to his, understanding, he's 76 years old. There's no one in the family that had stepped forward and said, hey, I want to be that next generation owner. And look, he bought the team for $183.5 million. From what I was hearing yesterday, he is about to make the most money of anybody who has put a team up for sale. The record right now is Stevie Cohen's $2.4 billion for the Mets, and everybody I talked to yesterday thinks the Angels will go for more.
Wow, how about that? Even with the ballpark scenario and in Anaheim, shattered by the Dodgers. What are they going to do about Ohtani? Contract up after next year. They're going to give him $400 million too and have three guys making $1 billion who don't win? What are they going to do with Ohtani here? And does he want to stay after 2024? That's going to be a big decision, or 2023. That's going to be a big decision for new ownership. What's going to happen there?
Right. And the thing is, even if you offered Shohei Ohtani $500 million, he might not take it. He has been very clear, not angrily, not emotionally, but very rationally, that he's kind of fed up with how this is going. He didn't come over from Japan to watch the playoffs on TV. He could have stayed home and done that. So he wants to play for a winner. Was he going to re-sign with the Angels? Probably not. Could a new owner persuade him that more money is coming, not only for the major league roster, but for the whole organization? Probably. Can you get a new owner in place in time to do that? Probably not. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes.
Well, so right now you think Ohtani will not play with the Angels after next year. Interesting there, Bill. Well done there. Listen, they have spent a fortune on, listen, we all know how good Trout is, but, it is what it is. You pay one guy $436 million. It's going to affect your payroll. You can't pay everybody that, and one guy's not going to win. The Rendon contract is a complete mess. They gave him $258 million, and I know the injuries are legit. He never plays. You get paid $258 million, you got to pay, and he doesn't play. And now, I know he's hurt, and I understand it's legit, but still, he's been injury prone and so that's a major problem. How did they get themselves in this financial disaster when they're paying these three guys all this money and have nothing else around them? How did they get to this point right now as a franchise?
Lack of investment in areas beyond the major leagues. I look across town at the Dodgers, and everybody says, well, the Dodgers spend a lot of money. And they do. Of course they do. But what have they done? They've brought in Max Muncy as a minor league free agent. They brought in Justin Turner as a minor league free agent. They got Chris Taylor in a minor league trade. every day they seem to be calling up some pitcher from their minor leagues who's going to help them. Every day on Fangraphs, there's another story about some under-the-radar pitcher the Dodgers are developing that most fans haven't even heard of. There's a pipeline of player development and scouting and infrastructure and analytics and nutrition and sports science and diet, and I can go on and on. This is all stuff that modern teams do to win and sustain their excellence. And, the Dodgers have been in the playoffs every year under their current ownership. The Angels, Artie Moreno bought them the year after they won the World Series. And, of course, they have not gotten back there since and haven't been to the playoffs, as we talked about, since 2014. So it's a lot of depth issue. It's organizational quality. Everybody wants to have star players. That's great. And there's still money. It's not as if Artie Moreno went over the luxury tax. There's still money to be spent, but you have to spend it wisely. And that's where the Angels have fallen short.
Good job, Bill. Thanks for the help here today. Always a pleasure. Keep in touch. We'll get back to you here as this moves along. You got it, Bill Shake in LA Times, and you have it. And I again, this is me. I was floored how poor that ballpark was when I was there a couple weeks ago. Lots to.
All right, here is the AL postseason picture presented by Hankook. Right now, the AL Central is the tightest of the bunch. The Yankees have an 8-game advantage over the Rays. The Houston Astros an 11.5 game advantage over the Seattle Mariners. It's the Central that has most people talking. The Guardians have a 3-game advantage over the Twins. Time to play MLB Quick Pick presented by BetMGM. And Chris, it's a pretty simple question. Who will win today's game between the White Sox and the Orioles? The reason I ask this is because the Orioles are 29-14 with a record since July 3rd. They're tied with Seattle for the best in the AL in that span. Adley Rutschman, you can see what he's done in his last 30 games. The White Sox, 4 losses in 5 games versus Baltimore this season. So who will win this one, the White Sox or the O's?
And they beat Cease last night. I'll say the Orioles win again. I think the White Sox, we don't like their vibe. Giolito has not been great. I'll go Baltimore tonight at home against the Chi Sox.
Ballpark cam is turned on to Minute Maid Park. That is where the Twins and the Astros will battle this evening, the second of a 3-game set at Minute Maid Park, and the Twins have scored just 6 runs during a season-high 4-game losing skid. To talk about that, we have Dan Hayes with The Athletic, covering, of course, the Minnesota Twins. And Dan, first of all, thank you for being with us, but it looks like some frustration is starting to spill over. Obviously, let's talk about the ejection of Rocco Baldelli, and what do you make of what happened last night?
Yeah, it's his second one in 2 weeks, and that first game that happened was August 7th. Since that time, they've scored 44 runs over the 14 games. This is a team that clearly wants to be in the pennant race. They made some serious moves at the trade deadline, and the offense has gone sour. And, I think last night it was so confusing. There were so many people on the field, and the one part that Rocco contended that I can understand his point was, at the end, he went by to check on his pitcher, Aaron Sanchez. He basically went out to the mound and said, "Are you okay?" At the time, there were dozens of players on the field. It was still a pretty hectic situation, and he did stop on the mound. He did talk to his pitcher, and by definition, that is a mound visit. But what he was upset was the umpires determined that with all those people on the field, and yet as they signaled to the box that there was a mound visit, they didn't make a motion to the dugout. Baldelli was walking off the field, and he thought there should have been more of an effort to communicate from the umpires. I think, by the book, this was a mound visit, but I think he was hoping with such chaos going on that the umpires would reach out and say, "Hey, look, that was a mound visit, just so you know." And clearly they had no idea, because one batter later, Aaron Sanchez walks Yuli Gurriel, and Pete Mackey, the pitching coach, goes out and goes for just another chance to calm down the pitcher after clearly a tense situation. And they find out, oh, that's your second mound visit. And they're feeling the heat at this point. Cleveland's pulling away a little bit. They're falling out of the wild card race. And obviously, Rocco got his money's worth with the ejection.
Well, he should have. I mean, at least give him a heads up, because he was forced to take Aaron Sanchez out of the game, throwing just 75 pitches and not having anybody warming in the pen. So I can understand Rocco Baldelli's frustration. Another big storyline, of course, Dan, is the fact that Carlos Correa making his return to Houston for the first time since he hit free agency and signed with the Twins. You were there. What was the reception?
Oh, it was spectacular. It's the first place that we've been this season where he hasn't been booed on the road. And it was really a nice moment. I had heard a little bit ahead of time that the Astros were planning big things. Of course they were. Carlos Correa was just one of the main forces of such a great run for that franchise. And it was so great to see, Maldonado step 6-10 feet in front of home plate and just hold his arms up. And Justin Verlander was 15-20 feet off the mound. They were going to give him his time for his due. There was a great reception in pregame. He got his ALCS ring from last year. It gave the fans a lot of time to just make let him know how much he meant. And clearly he did. And he really appreciated all of it. I mean, he's one of the more genuine players I've ever covered. You could tell that he was very excited about getting this chance to come back. When the Astros rolled through earlier this season, that's right after he'd hurt his finger in Baltimore. And he didn't get a chance to play that series. He wanted to play so badly against the Astros. He got the chance last night, and it didn't go quite the way he wanted to. Justin Verlander struck him out in the first inning, but he did break up the no-hitter. We asked him, it was one of the lighter moments of the day afterwards, just asking him about the fact that he did break it up in the seventh inning, missing at times. There have been a lot of injuries. That's not an excuse. A lot of teams have a lot of injuries. I just don't think that they've run into some depth issues. And when you see things like that, you do need your superstars to step up. And so it would be great for them to have Arraez and Correa going, because Byron Buxton's loss is huge for them.
No question. And he can't seem to stay away from injury. And that's always been the tag that he has, despite the fact that they signed him to a huge contract. But they perform so much better, Dan, when he's in the lineup. They're 8 games over 500 when he's in there. They're 5 games below when he's not. How serious is this IL stint?
Yeah, they're hopeful that this is just a 10, 12-day thing. We'll see. And look, both sides have done a fantastic job of keeping him on the field to this point. This is his first IL stint. And the way it's been described, I mean, we've heard so much maintenance on his knee. Early in April, he slid into second base at Boston, immediately left the field, had his knee drained, missed 5 games, has had all kinds of cortisone shots, had a PRP shot at the All-Star break. The fact that he's gone this long with what he's gone through, and we're talking probably somewhere between 3 and 4 hours of maintenance a day. Rocco Baldelli saying at times that he hasn't been able to walk into the clubhouse, and yet he finds his way into the lineup. It's been a pretty remarkable run. And honestly, I think you look at his average, it's not what he has been in the last couple of years. I think what we're seeing is probably him playing at 60-70% of his full health capability and still putting up this season. It's been fantastic so far. This is a big loss. They're hoping that it's 10-12 games and not the end of season, because he did have a hip injury last year in May that cost him 7 weeks. But yesterday, Rocco Baldelli said, we don't think this is a thing that costs him a month, that costs him the rest of the season. We're not having that conversation right now. And so I think they're optimistic that this is a good 10, 12-day breather to get him back right as much as he can be for the rest of the season.
Byron Buxton, certainly an impact player. Tonight, Dan Hayes, it is Dylan Bundy going up against Framber Valdez. Enjoy the game at Minute Maid Park. We appreciate your time.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me on.
Coming up on High Heat, we're speaking all things about Fernando Tatis Jr. and